Hi, this is Lisa with Coping with Yarn, and today me and E.T. we'll be reading Chapter 10 of E.T. the extra-terrestrial in his adventure on Earth. And doesn't E.T. look like he's gonna sing, "Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match, find me a find, catch me a catch"? Okay, I know, I'm being silly. Okay. "It's only been working a little while," said Michael. "You've got to think positively." "Tell him that," said Elliot, nodding toward the closet where E.T. sat brooding. The space elder knew it was absurd to expect immediate results, or perhaps any results at all, but he couldn't help himself. He had been dreaming of the great ship. As soon as he closed his eyes, he saw it, the beautiful ornament descending. But when he woke, he was still alone with nothing but a half-eaten box of Oreos and a stooping, staring Muppet. Elsewhere in the house, Mary was going about her chores, wondering if life had any answers besides children's sneakers turning up in the refrigerator. I had to read that twice because that didn't make sense, but okay. Warily, she ran her sweeper, picking up bits of guitar strings and strange-looking seeds that she worried might be from marijuana. Elliot and Michael had been acting very strange lately, and so had Gertie. Was her whole family turning on? She daydreamed of their father, the irresponsible bum, gone to Mexico. She thought about taking aerobic dancing. Anyway, buy a new pair of shoes. But were there any surprises left in life for her? Wasn't everything pretty much the way it was going to be, except wrinkles would be added and she'd have to buy even more expensive creams to fight them off? Made out of placentas or something? Switching off the vacuum cleaner, she realized the doorbell was ringing. For some strange reason, her hopes soared. It was crazy, she knew, but the whole house seemed crazy these days. She went toward the door, caught in the idea that her charming bum of a husband would be there for old time's sake. Or maybe somebody else, for new time's sake. Somebody tall, dark, and devastating. She opened the door. It was someone short, red-haired, and nerdish.
"Is Elliot home?"
"Just a minute, Lance." She sighed, turned, and climbed the stairs toward Elliot's room, which was locked as usual. What were they doing in there? What horrible things could cause her to buy placenta cream before her time? She knocked. "Elliot, that boy Lance is here." "He's a nerd. Tell him to get lost." "I can't do that, Elliot. I'm going to tell him he can come up." She descended the stairs, feeling they were the treadmill her life had gotten onto. Wouldn't anything new come into her situation?
"Thank you,"
said the nerd, passing her on the stairs. Something incredibly new had come into his situation, and he was tracking it, upstairs to the source. His jug-handle ears, which his mother taped down at night, now seemed to swivel still further forward, defeating all of Mother's hopes. He knocked on Elliot's door.
"Let me in."
"Go away. I want to see the E.T. He smiled, greatly satisfied by the effect he could feel his words were having in the suddenly silent room behind the door. The door swung open. He stepped, nerd fashion, intrusively inward. "Listen, let me state my position from the beginning. I admit I was wrong. I do believe in spacemen. I saw one last night and out in the forest with you." "I told you," said Elliot. "That was my cousin." You have an incredibly ugly family, then." "I saw him, Elliot, with my own eyes." "No, you didn't." "I don't want to be a tough guy, but there's a man on the block right now, knocking on doors, asking, I assure you," his eyes a lot of questions about, did anybody see anything strange in the neighborhood? So I would walk right up to him now and tell him all I know, and I know a lot." Lance gazed at Elliot, his Swiss cheese complexion glowing. He was not a bad person, just a born creep. They always seem to show up on days when people are feeling bad and make them feel worse. Or I could dumb you up. It's your choice. Elliot sighed, and Lance knew it was surrender. He began to babble. Where did you find him, Elliot? Did you know where he came from, or what race he is? Is he from our solar system? Does he talk? Has he got any superpowers? Michael interrupted. You tell anyone, and he will disintegrate you. You'll just spin around into nothing. Can he do that, really? Has he done it already? Elliot walked to the closet, opened it, and stepped in. The aged monster stared in confusion, for he had heard Lance's familiar voice, and his mind probe did not fail him this time. A threatening presence had arrived. He's a nerd, said Elliot, but he won't hurt you, I promise. E.T. covered his face and shook his head. It was no longer Halloween. His face was not something that could just be shown casually to people. He was saved by the doorbell. Elliot and Michael both felt it go off in their nerves, like a wire suddenly growing hot. Elliot backed out of the closet just in time to see Michael sneaking into the hallway. The older brother went softly along the hall carpet that descended silently to the first landing of the stairwell, where he could eyeball the situation below. The situation had brought Mary from behind the sofa, where she found a lifetime supply of spitballs and a magazine that seemed to be devoted to the 6 practices of voluptuous space nymphs. My babies, she thought warily, my innocent little lost boys. She walked toward the insistent doorbell, knowing for certain that it would not be someone tall, dark, and devastating. She opened it. He was tall, dark, and devastating, but he was crazy. Investigating rumors of unidentified flying objects. She stared at the ring of keys hanging from his belt. He certainly had a great many doors to open in life, whoever he was. Then he showed her what happened to a government badge. Then he showed her what appeared to be a government badge. But couldn't he have gotten it from a cereal box or something? I'm sorry, she stammered, but I don't understand. Not far from here, a UFO put down. We have reason to believe one of its crew was stranded. You've got to be kidding! I assure you. His eyes penetrated her own. I'm not. She gazed back in wonder. Here she was, divorced and with 3 kids to support, lonely, frustrated, and thinking of taking dance lessons, when to her door comes an attractive man, possibly single, and looking for flying saucers. She slumped just slightly and fingered her dust cloth. Well, I haven't seen anything. He stared at her and then shifted his gaze beyond her, into a house, as if he already knew a great deal about it, and her, and was just finalizing some elaborate plan. If he tried to push past her, she'd brain him up with a dust mop, and then nurse him back to health. But now he was apologizing for bothering her, and backing down the steps. She watched him go along the sidewalk, and wondered if he had read too many comic books as a child. Or had he taken a bad fall? Then she noticed a sleek government-style car pulling into the curbstone alongside him. The driver gave him a sort of salute, and the man climbed in, joining some other men in the back seat. Had they all taken a bad fall? She stepped away from the hall window and resumed her intimate relationship with the dust mop. Maybe she had misjudged the caller. Maybe he was a serious person with a serious mission. Yeah, sure, and there's a spaceman in the closet. She opened it, arranged the scattered overshoes, coats, hats, gloves. The umbrella was still missing. She knew Michael and Elliot had taken it, and she just hoped it wasn't being used for anything pornographic. Michael snuck back into Elliot's room. He's an investigator. He showed Mom a badge. He says there have been UFOs. Lance bounced up and down, as if upon springs. Did you see a UFO? You must be the luckiest person in the world. Elliot interrupted. Did she tell him anything? No. Does he know about the communicator? Lance bounced some more. That's what it is? Did he bring it from the other world? Is it like a real future machine? He made it out of bobby pins. Bobby pins? Lance fumbled with his momentarily, then pressed on as a nerd would. Is he trying to reach his planet? Oh God, Elliot, are they going to land? Where? When? Then feeling that he was losing position, he renewed his threat. Show me the E.T. right now, or I'll run after the guy with the badge. I mean it. Do you know that you suck? I can't help myself. Elliot, knowing he had to do it, opened the door. The monster stepped forth, calm once more, lost in his own thoughts, munching on an Oreo. He looked at the nerd. Lance's hands dropped limply to his sides, and the blood ran completely out of his cheeks, leaving him the color of white American cheese, still wrapped in plastic. A variety of beeping noises, sounds behind his brow. The same sounds he had heard on his moonlight ride. I could die today, he said in a whisper, and go to heaven. You might, said Michael. You're going to make a blood oath. Anything, said Lance, hardly knowing or caring about Michael, Elliot, or the world, because here before him was the most incredible being on earth. I've dreamt about you, said Lance, softly, all my life. Michael grabbed Lance by the wrist. Say after me, I swear I'll never tell a living soul when I have seen today. Michael's pocket knife cut into his own finger and into Lance's as Lance muttered, I swear. Blood flowed from their fingers, and Michael pressed them together. The cosmic voyager, watching it in puzzlement, raised his own finger, which began glowing pink. No, said Elliot, don't. It was too late. The pinkish glow spread outward, touching Michael and Lance, and the cuts in their fingers stopped bleeding, and the skin fused back together, and the wounds were healed without a trace. And that concludes chapter 10. All right. I love you guys. Have a good day. And be good.